Hello Repony, my name is Hawk Nightwing, the most unapologetic defender of G5 you'll ever meet, and let's talk about Posey. I've been wanting to make a video going over how Tail fixed their character ever since B+P equals BFFs came out, but I never got around to doing it, and that's mainly because I only had one episode to work off of. But now, after we got the long-awaited sequel to that episode in the form of Sleepover, I now have a lot more to work with, and we can finally go over how Tail Season 2 not only managed to fix Posey's portrayal in just 2 episodes, but unlock the full potential she had within them. Today, I want to discuss how Tail made Posey likable. So to start with, let's go over Posey's start, more specifically, her introduction to Making Mark Chapter 1. She began as a decent antagonist, with some hidden depth to her in the first special. Unlike Sprout, she appeared a bit more sympathetic by design, and felt more like a victim of change, rather than someone outright opposed to it. She was a lonely pony from the start, and had not yet experienced what making friends was all about. She was afraid of all these foreign ponies in her town, did not want to get along with them, and preferred to keep to herself. But by the end, she made her first friend in Wendy, and learned to accept the new status quo. But that wasn't the end of her story. Now, I always felt there was a bit more that could have been done with their character going forward. With Making Mark coexisting with Tail at the time, there was an opportunity for Posey to really come into her own, and have stories that focused on her on a deeper level. The only problem? That never happened. For much of the first season, actually all the first season, she was treated like a walking punching bag by not only the show staff, but by her main characters too. She was the butt of so many jokes, constantly having horrible things happen to her. Heck, at one point, Izzy almost runs over her with her cart. Yikes. She was always the target of accidents, so the writers could inject humor into the stories. And when that wasn't enough, her standoffish personality was almost flanderized to make the abuse justified. There was one point in Sensitive Adventure, where she incited a mob to throw tomatoes at Pip. None of this was justified, and for those of you who were around for my earliest Tail reviews, you'll know that I was not a fan of this whatsoever. It felt like forced humor for the kids, and I always maintained there was so much more interesting avenues they could have taken her after the first special. At the end of the day, she was just portrayed as just a one-note, unlikable jerk just getting karma and nothing else. She garnered sympathy because many of us weren't fans of this outdated trope, but she was never presented as a character meant to be likable, or someone you can root for. So how did the show change that? Well, that is when, again, a miracle happened. Call it a gift from the eloquence of Skyros, call it the show sorta kinda maturing with its audience and cutting back on the cliches, anything. Season 2 rolled around. While we had some minor Posey abuse in the first few episodes, it was a bit later on in the season when someone must have pulled the plug and decided, hey, let's actually take Posey and make her a main character. And oh boy did they pull that off. Episode 13, titled P+P equals BFFs, blew my mind. Not only did Posey have her first solo episode, but she was actually treated with respect. Finally, the show became interested in presenting a deeper layer to her character beyond just being a bona fide Squidward. And the way the episode accomplished that was by treating her not as a walking punching bag, but as a character needing development. Her loneliness was put in the spotlight, and we got to glimpse a whole other side to her. In that episode, she had her usual stubborn nature, sure, but we later learned that it acts as a cover of how lonely she really is. She didn't come to the board trial with any friends, and as a result, she couldn't understand how the friendship bracelet worked. She initially tries to blame it on it being faulty and acts like she doesn't need any help, but emotions don't lie. And it's a scene in the dock where we get to see just how vulnerable Posey really is. Underneath that caring attitude is a pony who is deeply lonely and in need of companionship. She sees all these pairs together and realizes just how alone she's been. She starts to cry. And this shows that she may be a pony who's difficult to get along with, but she has a good heart. And this is the key aspect to her character that the first season, even Making Mark, largely didn't get, but season 2 thrives on showcasing. Posey is the character who hides her true self, her true passions, under a stern exterior. This episode serves to break that down and subvert normal cliches. Rather than be the butt of yet another cheap joke this time, Posey is instead offered compassion by Pip, who gives her advice, and stands up for her when no one else will. Posey lightens up and they spend the day together, where she truly learns to let loose and embrace what it means to have friendship. She realizes just how valuable it really is over the course of a single montage, and we get to see her have fun like never before. And the episode ends with she and Pip playing in the water bonding, Posey having found yet another friend. P+P equals BFF single-handedly saved Posey by showcasing the exact kind of story you wanted to see from her the whole time. But it's just one episode, I hear you saying. What if that was just a fluke? Well, it's a good thing it isn't then. And this brings us to the episode Sleepover, the reason why I finally decided to make this video. Now, something I actually want to point out before we get to the real meat of everything is the progression of Posey's character, from her previous outing to this one. Notice how she's the one who actively chooses to seek out the company of the main six upon being invited to the sleepover, whereas in the previous episode, it was Pip coming to her. This demonstrates real development on her part, and demonstrates Tail's willingness to acknowledge continuity between its stories. Even if she still has a lot to learn, she's grown over the course of her previous experience, and now knows that friendship itself isn't a bad thing. And now for the episode itself. I pretty much said everything I needed to say in my initial review, but the one thing I will say here is that this episode managed to show Posey opening up more towards others. This time, She isn't just having fun with one pony, but the whole gang. They show her what it's like to have her first sleepover, and while she is initially hesitant about it, she soon learns to go with the flow and realizes that she actually enjoys it. And this episode in particular feels like the antithesis of a previous installment involving Posey and the gang. It's no pun intended. I see some people saying that this episode is the exact same as that one. Oh, the main six force something upon Posey the whole episode and she's just forced to go along with it. They're bullying her into going along with their silly games. That's all it is, right? Well, not exactly, and this is the key difference. Unlike that episode, Posey actually comes to enjoy the activities on her own. She isn't forced to do anything, she chooses to have fun. Our ponies only show her how much they have fun, as they want to include her in their games out of the kindness of their hearts. And the more activities Posey sees, the more she's incentivized to join them. She at first tries to block it out and pretends like she wants nothing to do with it. But eventually, her heart wins over. First she starts tapping to the beat, then she starts vibing, and that's when she finally starts singing along. She starts off the episode hating the very idea of sleepovers and misunderstanding them, only to realize just how much she's missed out on this whole time. It's a classic case of being so stubborn you refuse to do something, even if you have no idea what it is, and then finding out you like it, which is a sentiment I can definitely relate to. Like I said before, she allows herself to get lost in the zaniness and the craziness of the sleepover, and lets loose entirely, living it up to the fullest extent. She learns to get out of her comfort zone and embrace the simplicities of everyday life. She learns to embrace having friends, the joys of companionship, and how exhilarating spending time with others can be. Concepts that were once foreign to her before this episode and her last one helped her realize them. It appears to be a sort of arc for her, one that she has really been lacking until now. And this episode continues the theme of showcasing a more lighthearted side to her character, while still keeping her core personality intact. She didn't have to change her entire personality for this development to happen. All she needed was to get out of her comfort zone and experience new things. We got to see a whole new side to her as a result, the side that laughs and takes pleasure in silly things, the side that enjoys engaging in crazy activities and spooky stories, the side that enjoys singing, so on and so forth. It's the side of her that's not afraid to be silly and unabashedly goofy, the true self that she's kept locked inside of her this whole time. Posey, to me, is a complex character, and an easy one to get wrong, which is a trap the first season fell into. She's not easy to root for due to her typical brash attitude, so how do you make a character like Posey likable? Simple. Lean into her redeeming qualities, and make them the predominant force when crafting a story about her. Make her weaknesses strengths. Rather than portray Posey as this one-note, butt-of-all-jokes Karen who always gets what's coming to her because she's mean, what P+P equals BFFs and Sleepover did differently was that they leaned into the supposed negative qualities and made them positive ones. Suddenly Posey has something deeper to her, sympathetic even. Her brash attitude is a mask for her own awkwardness, and once those mental walls are torn down, you actually get to know her as a character, rather than as a stereotype. These two episodes worked the way they did because they treated Posey with the amount of respect they gave towards the other characters, and they decided to develop her beyond the surface level. These episodes make me appreciate her so much. What Posey teaches the kids, in my opinion, is understanding those who are different than you, reaching out to others you may not consider a friend previously. Chances are, they might need help too. They might not be as lucky as you, and instead of turning them away and treating them like a bully, you should reach out a helping hand, or hoof in this case, and offer them compassion if you're able. You should help them discover passions they never thought of before, and strive to let them in as much as possible. And like I alluded to before, more than anything else, I think these episodes show that Terra Till is slowly growing up with its audience. It knows we expect more from it now as the focus series, and even if it might have its egregious missteps from time to time, stories like this demonstrate a willingness on the part of the show staff to deliver stories that are meaningful to people beyond its target demographic. Posey was once a cheap punching bag for humor, and now she has an actual, tangible arc, and I love to see that. I love to see G5 continue to commit to more thematically rich, mature stories, and it's wonderful to see just how far the show has come over the course of just 2 seasons. Making a character formerly thought to be unlikable, likable, is nothing new for MLP, sure, but it's always great to see it in action, because it demonstrates positive messages of compassion and understanding, of subverting expectations and finding companionship in the most unlikely of people. I want more stories with this kind of writing, and now more than ever, I think Posey deserves to have more episodes dedicated to her, because it feels like we're only scratching the surface here. What can I say except, beyond just Misty, Terra Till really knows how to take advantage of its characters now, and I couldn't be more proud of that fact. But, what do you guys think of Posey's development? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you are new here and you want to see more, then feel free to drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to be updated on future content. We analysts appear to be a dying breed in the community, as mindless hate videos are all the rage, so your contributions make a huge difference in helping me grow. Until next time, this is Hawk Nightwing signing out. Hoof to heart.